Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Power of Our Story on our Friday afternoon session. Today we got Mike Pellegrino. He's the founder of the company of Resilient Minds on the Front Lines. Mike started his career in law enforcement with local police department in New Jersey. Was awarded a number of accolades throughout his career. When Mike retired, he then founded the Resilient Minds on the Front Lines company, which teaches law enforcement officers or any company at this point, talks about resiliency and how to get through hard times of their career. So at this time, Mike, welcome, and we appreciate you joining us. And thank you for taking the time out to be here with us.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on this call with each and every one of you.
Okay. So Mike, let's start a little bit about, let's tell us all a little bit about your law enforcement career, where it kind of took you, and your experiences within your law enforcement career.
Well, it started when I was 18 years old. I filled out an application. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to be in my life at that point. I was in my first semester of college, and at that point, they were hiring at the Ewing Police Department. So I took the test, and I did really well on it. I came out pretty high, and at the age of 19, I was hired by the Ewing Police Department. And my career had obviously it was quite a journey. It was the highs, the lows. It was everything that you can possibly imagine in police work. And I wouldn't have traded it for anything. What a profession it was. And now I have the opportunity to be on this call with some great people. And more importantly, I'd like to just say what an honor it is to do that. But 18 years old, 19 years old, and here I am today. Living out my why.
Well, that's awesome. So you're the founder of Resilient Minds on the Front Lines. Was there a specific reason, experience, something that happened in your life that made you want to do what you're doing now with the Resilient Minds program?
Well, it started as something that one of my very close friends had committed suicide. I believe it was 2012, 2013 area. He was in my wedding. I was the best man in his wedding. And that kind of propelled what I wanted to do for mental wellness and how I wanted to help police officers and everything. And there was I was involved with the New Jersey State PBA, and New Jersey State PBA had a peer liaison program, which later I became the coordinator of. At that point, I was the chairman of that. So I was able to help people, especially in the law enforcement area, get the resources they needed when they were spiraling down, and help them get to the resources they needed if they needed it right then and there as well. But over that time period, we really experienced some suicide in our profession, and it's something that I don't take very lightly, and neither does a lot of other people, because when you get in that dark hole, it's something that really we want to make sure that we help people get out of. But that was kind of catalyst that started everything there. And with that, we had some really recent suicides that the New Jersey, Attorney General and everything got behind, and mandated a program in New Jersey that every law enforcement officer would go through a 16-hour resiliency program. So that was kind of vetted, and they brought that program here, and it's the only state in America right now that has a mandatory mandate of 16 hours to go through that resiliency program. So that kind of was the catalyst that started it. And at that point, I was just getting ready to retire. I had worked on my exit plan, and I thought I was retiring for one reason. And the prosecutor, the lead law enforcement officer for my county, had come to me and said, "Hey, listen, we're looking to start this program." And this was something that I'd like you to take on. And I was honored that he had asked me. And, obviously life is about opportunity. And if this was going to give the opportunity to help people, I wanted to be all about it. And with that, we obviously know shortly after I took that job, what happened was we went into complete lockdown. And I had met some great people all across the country, some subject matter experts, and really wanted to do something because I spent my first day in lockdown because obviously I wasn't on the job no more. I was working as an agent, so I was just answering pretty much calls all day on anybody that had issues that they needed help with. And I spent my first day, the whole day, probably 9 or 10 hours on the phone with two officers. And I remember getting off the phone, and they, after being on the phone for about 10 hours, and I told my wife, I said, we need to do something here, and we need to get something done. And that's when kind of the idea was born about Resilient Minds. And I said, I'm thinking about doing a webcast series, and I would like to get all our subject matter experts, our docs together and put something together so that we can give people 4 things. We want to give them positivity. We want to give them hope. We want to give them a resiliency tool, and we're going to give them, more importantly, resources to do that. And with that, after 34 webcasts and partnering with, several high schools to be able to help us with our AV, because again, we were doing all this by Zoom and trying to edit everything and try to put everything together. With that point, Resilient Minds was born. And little did we know at that point that we were going to hit 76 countries and all 50 states. And doing that, I was really surprised, and we were getting emails from all over the world. Can you do something with this? Can you do something with that? And that's when we decided that we really needed to put a curriculum together, and we wanted to base it off of positive psychology. We wanted to base it off of everything that was positive in this world. So, obviously we went back to the godfather, which was Dr. Martin Seligman of the positive psychology. And he talked about the PERMA model. And we really wanted to hit on the PERMA model pretty hard. So our subject matter experts got together, and we put together this curriculum. And now we do in-person trainings all over the country. I also speak all over the country on mindset, on all this stuff. So it's just been incredible, and met so many great people. And now we're going to be close to about 75 facilitators throughout the country, being able to bring our brand out, which is basically helping those on the front lines help themselves and others. And that's what we're all about. And I see one of our facilitators on here, Dave Perez, and not only is he one of our great facilitators, he's also a great friend as well. So I want to just recognize him for all the great work he has done with Resilient Minds as well. So that's how it was born. And now it's, we're probably in 10 different states right now that we're doing a lot of work in. And basically what we do is we go in and we teach people, or we don't teach people, we just facilitate people in self-discovery so that they can flourish. I think that's really what it's all about, is we're not teaching them anything that they don't know already. We're just helping them bring out stuff that they learned in kindergarten, first grade, and be able to use those skills to be able to stop themselves from spiraling down and be able to put themselves in a good headspace to spiral back up.
So, Mike, if you wouldn't mind, maybe can you further talk about maybe like what some of the content you guys are teaching and some of the techniques and, the success you've seen from that, your evidence-based success and all that things like that you've seen based off of the large amount of numbers that you have taught across the country and across the world at this point?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Ryan. And you never can quantify everything because you don't know you don't know the person that you're reaching, you don't know who you're talking to, that it's going to make a profound effect on. But it's just been amazing, just the emails and the results back. And I know that we're actually in talks right now with a university who is doing a white paper on us. And that's going to be really, really good, because they also want to bring this to the college. They want to bring this to the universities, because there's not anyone that couldn't benefit from the resiliency program or the mental wellness, the mental strength program. We truly believe that that's really where it's at. But some of the things that we do talk about is, what first and foremost is gratitude, being grateful. When you're grateful, I always say that joy and anger can't live in the same headspace. So when you're grateful for something, you really have the ability to spiral up and either stop yourself from jumping down that rabbit hole, stopping yourself and being able to spiral back up. We talk about mindfulness. We talk about ABC plus D&E, and that's basically, the activating event, the behavior or the brain and the consequence to it. But also we added a little spice of D&E, which is disputing that belief. And that's pretty simple, because we can always, especially in the law enforcement community, we always go to the negative. We seem to always go to the negative. Everything seems to want to take us there. And if we don't know the answers to something, we kind of make that up. So we want to dispute our beliefs, and then obviously have that effect on making sure that we make the right choice in doing that in the future. We also talk about spirituality. We also talk about the physical body, the physical resiliency portion of it. We talk about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is very important in getting, and basically what that is it's getting new neural pathways in your brain. When you're talking about neuroplasticity, you're talking about basically just burning new habits in your brain. So if we do the same thing over and over again, what do we call that? Pretty much that's insanity. So when we want to change that thought process, it usually takes us about 21 days to perform a habit. So we want to really get into that portion of it and burn new neural pathways in our brains, because neurons that fire together wire together. So we really believe that the brain is a big part of this. We talk about the lizard, the puppy, and also the frontal cortex. We know that people live a lot in their frontal cortex, but that's just basically looking at the front window of our car. That's the biggest window we have to look out from. But we also have to look in the rearview mirror to see that we don't make the same mistakes in our past, that when we're driving forward, we want to make sure that we don't repeat. So we talk a little bit about that as well. And these are just some of the things that we talk about in our program. But it has been life-changing for some people. And I'm on an email chain now that we just did a class a week and a half ago, and they're on fire in Lincoln, Nebraska. They're bringing us back there. And it's the email chain is just all about the gratitudes. And when you're grateful for something, that really kind of changes the trajectory of where you're going to some good stuff there. So they're just some of the things that we talk about, Ryan.
That's pretty awesome. So tell us, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about, how can we obtain your services? How can we get involved and help? People who want to get involved and be, involved with Resilient Minds, or people who want to get your services and your classes out there to their agencies. What are some of the options that we, in this group specifically, that we would have, or that we can tell people
Absolutely. Well, I'd first invite them to visit our website to see, what we're all about and our team, because I think that's most important, to take a look at the team. And that's really where there's a lot of people on there that have a lot of initials past their last name, which is a lot of people smarter than I am. But more importantly, it's about their creds and their ability to be able to facilitate the program. Once you take a look at at that, we do, we do have an online application. If it's something that you may be interested in becoming a facilitator, absolutely. There's four things that we ask for as a facilitator, and we recognize, and our facilitators will recognize, is we ask for four things from anyone that wants to be a facilitator with us. And that's authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, and accountability, because those four things really are important to our brand, not only at Resilient Minds, but also in what we're trying to accomplish, what our mission is. Because if we go out there and we just put something together that we're not those four things, then we're just kind of doing a PowerPoint presentation, and that's not what we're all about. We're all about one thing. We're all about connecting the head with the heart and having them interpersonal conversations, interpersonal connections with others, so that we can help them, whether they're going down that bad place, or we jump in the hole with them and show them the way out, because that's important.
So you mentioned a little earlier about, you're doing now, what is your why? Can you maybe elaborate more on, obviously you touched about how you grew Resilient Minds and why it came about, but what your purpose and your why a little bit more to this group? Because I know that's a big thing that we talk about a lot.
Yeah, and I echo, my mentor. I'm certified through John Maxwell, and John Maxwell says it the best. John Maxwell says, when you find your why, you find your way. And that's really, really true. And I take that to heart, because if we don't have purpose and meaning in our lives, what do we really have? We just wake up in the morning and kind of go through our day as if we were just going through a maze or something. So when you have something that you wake up for, and you have that passion and you have that fire to do it, that's the thing that really is going to bring you over the edge to do it. And for me, this is my why. This is my passion, to be able to help as many people as I can, not only change their mindset, but be able to change some of the things that they've done in the past that can help them to get to a brighter future. Because again, I quote this all the time by Tony Robbins. Tony said, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you focus on the negative in your life, that's where you're going to go. You're going to go down that dark hole. But if you focus on all the positive things that you can do in your life, then it's going to take you to a whole different ball game in life. So that's where we really believe that we focus on. And my why is very simple. And I've kind of coined this from one of our colonels, a retired colonels, and one of our curriculum directors. He says it best: we help facilitate people in self-discovery so that they can flourish. That's basically it in a nutshell, what Resilient Minds is all about. And that's really the true why. That's really the true meaning of what not only our company and what we do, but all our facilitators too, because that's true in life. We want to make sure that we give people the tools to be able to spiral up. And we never know along the stream where somebody is, but we know that there's a waterfall at the end. And our job is to swim upstream and find them people prior to going over that waterfall. But we do have on the back end, one of the things that was very adamant when we were building our business model here, is to make sure that once people did go over, or once they were along that stream and ready to go over, that we had people at the other end that were able to catch them as well. And that's why our partnership with Acadia Healthcare has been really, really important. And Acadia Healthcare is the largest mental health and behavioral health facility in the world. And we've kind of utilized them. And two of our lead instructors are with them. And we're able to utilize their services as well too. And that's Bill Mazer and Joe Collins. And they have been a great resource for us, because it's like a soft handoff. We're not here to do group therapy or anything like that. We're here to make sure that you have the tools, but we're also here to make sure that we do that soft handoff to make sure that you get into the right culturally competent hands. And that's really, really important, because we just can't hand somebody off to a pediatric physician or, somebody that doesn't deal with law enforcement. That's really, really key. So we have vetted, culturally competent people that are ready to take over once that person is over the waterfall. And all they have to do is ask. We don't get anything from that. That's not who we are. We just are able to hand that person off to get them the help that they need. And we also have we're also have a working relationship now with Irish Angel. She's doing some great work there as well. Amanda, we had met with her all weekend, and she's working on different programs now to help people that may need money to get to those facilities or anything like that. So we have all the resources readily available to us, and we believe that's truly, truly important, because we don't want anybody leaving that classroom or leaving the hands of us that we know that we can get them the help and set them up with the right people. So that's important for us in Resilient Minds is also, Ryan.
Sounds wonderful. Well, I'm going to go ahead in the interest of time, because I think we're going to have a bunch of people with some questions here. I'm going to start the questions flowing for you. So I think Johnny's got a question. I'm doing this from my phone, so if y'all can help me out, please do. But Johnny, go ahead.
Hi, do you prefer Michael or do you, Mike?
It doesn't matter, Johnny. I appreciate it. My dad was always Mike, so I always used Michael just to have my own identity. That's all. So
My dad was John, so I always use Johnny. So I understand.
Yeah.
So are you a police officer in Caldwell, New Jersey?
I am not. I think that was a little mistake. I retired from Ewing Police Department in New Jersey.
Okay, because I live in Caldwell.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, I know Officer Joy. I know the chief. I know both the detectives. Yeah, I know them well.
Yeah, that was a little mistake. We were the kind of the border of all of Trenton, which was the capital.
Yeah, you're down south. So I guess my question was, but you were in the Marine Corps, correct?
I was not.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought I saw on your profile you're a Marine. I was just curious if there is a crossover. I know, well, Dave is a good friend of mine. He's actually going to be with us, going down to the 9/11 museum with me on Thursday. We're going to be donating a flag to them. But my question, I guess, was David's not a veteran, but he's hung out with a lot of us now. And he's got a lot of friends that are. A lot of veterans, I know here in West Caldwell, I think 4 of the police officers are Marines. And one of them is an Army veteran. And there's only, I think, like 14 on the West Caldwell Police Department, like out of the entire West Caldwell. I think Caldwell's got like 12. I guess my curiosity was, do you see a lot of crossover between the struggles between the officers that are veterans? Do you see like a double down, I guess, would be my question, versus say an officer that doesn't have that veteran background?
Absolutely, we see that, and we always want to make sure that we give special interest to that. And thank you for your service, Johnny. I think that's really important.
Oh, no need for thanks. It was honor and privilege. The real thanks are the police officers. I mean, you guys put on uniforms every day and you're a target 24/7. Like, to me, that's more of a service. I mean, look at me. I go outside. I'm not a target. I'm just regular. I appreciate it, but you guys really are the ones that deserve the thanks.
No, and I definitely see that, and obviously, we always, our friends at Acadia tell us that we experience five traumas a month, and when you add those traumas as law enforcement over into, and you cross reference them into the armed services, into the military, I can't even imagine what that number becomes. So you times just a average law enforcement officer who has 5 traumas a month, and then you times that by 12 and times that by 25-year career, or a 30-year career, those numbers are, they're staggering. And Those are the things that that we want to help give people the resources and the mental stability to be able to utilize some of those tools when they do go down that hole, whatever it may be, or in that bad headspace.
Well, I've been in dark places before, and just in closing, have you ever spoke to Dan Jarvis or anybody at 22-0?
I have not. I have
I
not.
think you guys would be a great fit, and if you would give me the privilege, or David actually could probably introduce you as well. Me or David could get you in touch with Dan Jarvis over at 22-0. They do a great job, and they use a method called TRP, which is David, what's that stand for? I think David's actually
Trauma response protocol.
Yeah.
trauma response protocol.
No, it's trauma resiliency protocol and then the emotional management protocol. I'm actually a contacted coach with them.
Right. So Dan's a really good friend of mine. And I did the TRP I was the first responder at 9/11. It took me 20 years to go back to the museum. They filmed me in a documentary, and when they asked me about my experience, they're like, are you, we're gonna take you to the museum. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm not going back. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you think you can do to my brain. Like, I'm not going back there. They did the TRP the following day. I was at the museum. They filmed me walking around. So it really works. So if you have an opportunity, it looks like multiple of us can get you in contact with Dan. I think your work and his work really coincide, and he's not looking for anything either. All he's trying to do is save lives. He's a retired sheriff, and he's also a combat veteran from the United States Army. So same space.
Excellent, excellent. And we do have retired military on our team as well that are facilitators, because one thing, Johnny, is that doesn't change is our curriculum doesn't change. The only thing that changes in our curriculum is the facilitator, because we want to create those Me Too moments, and not Me Too as in we want to create that same language that first responders speak, that airline pilots speak, that ER docs speak, that the military speaks. So this profession has been broadened out so much. This program, that now we can plug and play with different facilitators to be able to facilitate this in any profession as well.
It's amazing work. I really it's thumbs up, man. Thumbs up.
Thank you.
Hats off to you, brother. It's great work. Great work. Thank you.
It's all about the team and the family. And Sarah and I were talking about this earlier. And this group is a family as well. I call my family at Resilient Minds. We are a huge family, and that's so very important. And sometimes we just want to do what's best for everyone, and that's just basically it.
I think that's what all of us have in common, right? We all made that oath, whether it be as a veteran or a police officer. We made that oath to serve something greater than ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely something we all have in common, regardless. And same with nurses, right? Like, they made that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my life has been saved by nurses, not by, Marines or helicopters or bullets, but by nurses that stitched me back up, so yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for your service again.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of ironic that came up, since I've told Mike multiple times that we need to do that as well. So, Sarah, what you got?
Well, I was thinking it's funny you just brought up languages, having the same language. That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like we're speaking the same language. I mean, if I can even recap a little bit, how you teach in your resilient minds group, positivity, hope, resiliency tools, and give resources. I heard you talk about the neuroplasticity and the habits. And that for facilitators, they need to be authentic, transparent, there needs to be both vulnerability and accountability. And that when you find your why, you find your way. I love what you're doing. And I was so excited. David had shared also earlier that your program is just going to sweep the US. And it's so exciting to hear that. And if you have time, like right after we stop recording, I would love to talk to you for a second.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. I appreciate you. I appreciate the spirit behind how you're doing this. It's evident. It really comes across that you are everything that you're talking about, that you're really pouring that spirit behind these words. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Sarah. That means the world to me. And that means the world to our team as well, because I know that when we started this was, and I put every dollar up of my own money. And that's something that I don't take lightly. And everybody who got involved with this from the beginning, basically there was no promises or anything that anything was going to happen. And now, I get people I got people calling me from all over the country, and not only all over the country, but police departments that are writing grants and using seizure money now and using wellness money and, bringing us in because they want to change the culture. And when you change the culture, you change the language of saying it's okay not to be okay. And we use that term a lot in Resilient Minds. And I'll repeat that. It's okay not to be okay. But if you recognize that and you're able to do something about it and self-aware to do something about it, that's when you can change the trajectory of your life as well.
That's wonderful. I'm excited to hear you share. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I'll save Ryan from having to call on me. I have a couple questions for you, Michael.
Sure,
Hey,
Terry.
real quick, I'm going to leave you guys to David to finish up. I got to run and take care of something.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a great day.
No problem. Y'all too.
So Michael, the question, first of all, help me understand. I've never heard the lizard and the puppy. What is that?
When we talk about the different parts of the brain, all the way back here to to the center of the brain, to the frontal cortex. So we're talking about 400 million pieces of information, all the way to about 40 pieces of information, because we kind of live in our frontal cortex. And Dr. Kate really talks about the brain and breaks down the brain really a lot better than I do. But I'm just using her terms to be able to get through, that portion of it. But what that is the neuroplasticity is basically creating new habits in your life. And when you create new habits, it's like I like to use the analogy, it's like running through a forest. And when you run through the same trail, you kind of, you run through the same place every time, you create a new trail. And you can create them good trails and all that. You're changing the way your body and your mind is working.
Right. So to that, it sounds like for this program, you're actually utilizing this positive psychology, and then you're also using the cognitive behavioral therapy to help shift to the positive mindset, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we use different tools. I mean, we use the gratitude, we use the ABC plus D&E. We use a lot of them tools. I'm not too familiar with the cognitive portion of it, but yes, if you're talking that way, everything's about the positive portion of it, because we tend to go to the negative all the time, especially in law enforcement. And yeah.
So on that note, I'm personally definitely going to look at your website. I mean, even before we started recording, with 30 years, I also have my master's in counseling psychology. I am currently working as a contracted coach with 22-0.
Okay.
And I would happily connect you with Daniel Jarvis. And then to that, the para model that you were talking about, he's actually paid for us to go through the Pacific Institute training right now. We're in that course for this whole month on that para model.
Irma?
And as far as facilitating these, is it something that requires traveling before I even take a look at it? Because that's a no for me.
Yeah, you can do anything if you want just to stay local. What part of the country you said you're
I'm in Massachusetts and I know we don't have this, because while you were speaking, I'm like, where were you when I needed it?
I said the same thing, Terry. I said, I wish I had this 20 years ago. And I wish I had this 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And it's changed the way I think, but that's me personally.
But
It starts within.
The thing with the law enforcement, it's all well and fine for us to say it's okay to not be okay.
Sure.
But then when the mind goes to, well, if I share with them that I'm struggling, what's going to happen to my job?
And that's why I know that in New Jersey, one of the things that they did in New Jersey is they revamped the whole IA policy. And Rob Sepio, our CEO, was behind that. He wrote the policy. So the IA policy and the departmental policy is very, very important to this as well, because in New Jersey, we have what's called, RPOs, resiliency program officers, and they are off limits to the IA unless you give two definitive things that you say to it. And that's one, you committed a crime, obviously, and two, that you're a danger to yourself or others. Those two things any law enforcement officer would have to get involved in. But more importantly, that was, if you're having a problem, having an issue, whatever that issue is, there's no questions asked. That would be just a soft handoff, and that would be it. I know that was very big in making sure that was revamped to get the buy-in in that program. For us, we are a private company, so it's not anything for us. Only thing that we do is that handoff to our friends at Acadia.
So Michael, to that, because I know for a fact that this is not in Massachusetts.
Okay.
As a private entity, are you a company that would actually work with unions or administrative staff in shifting policies and procedures in the processes to actually protect officers if they need the help?
Absolutely. We have Rob Sepio. Rob Sepio is not only our CEO, but he's our attorney. And Rob wrote the policy for New Jersey, so he has all the resources readily available to him. So if there was a specific department, a state that wanted to work with Rob, absolutely. That's key, because again, language changes the trajectory of everything here.
Right.
And there's nothing that, that Rob couldn't take a look at as our attorney and say, yes, I know he's done it for other jurisdictions. So, that's just one thing that we can add value to that municipality as well.
Hey,
Yeah.
Terry, do you mind if I piggyback on the union thing real quick?
Well, one more thing. I mean, as far as that goes, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. They can just grab those and just, apply them to the different states.
Yeah.
Well, the NYPD is a little bit different though. So the NYPD has over 40,000 officers. If it was a military, it'd be the 17th largest military on earth. It's massive. And they have two different unions. They don't just have one union. They have the Guardian, which is for African-American police officers. And then they have the PBA for Caucasian and Latino police officers. So I've been talking to both the PBA and the Guardians about getting 22-0, available for the NYPD. And it's a little bit difficult. So navigating the unions is like, NYPD is actually very, if a police officer has to deal with something, they'll keep they're like, hey, go get help. It won't affect your job, anything. They're really good with that. But it's the union that they have a problem with. The union is the one that's like, no, you have to go through us in order to, you have to go to a union, sponsored psychiatrists, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess my question, to piggyback on the unions, like maybe it's not a big deal for certain areas, but for NYPD, which is huge, so by far the largest. I mean, there's more NYPD cops than there are most states have police officers. Would you have any suggestions on how to navigate that kind of a political landscape, or do you guys have experience in navigating that?
I'd never gotten political or anything like that, so I don't know too much of what the inner workings are. But what I would suggest is anybody who needs our help, please reach out. And that's the most important thing, Johnny. I want to make sure that people reach out. We can offer our services in, whether it's union, whether it's administration. We're just going to give you what we have, and we're going to give you the best product that we do have.
You got it. I'm going to keep planting the seeds in both sides, on both unions and the NYPD. So I've been working on it for quite a while. So I'm just going to keep trucking. I just was hoping for a little advice to help speed up the process. It's been months. But I'll keep at it. I'll keep at it. And hopefully if we get a breakthrough, we'll be calling you.
Yeah. And if they want to reach out to Dave, myself, Rob, we can definitely talk about that. And, obviously I always like to have Rob in those conversations because he's the attorney in the room, and I never want to do something or put something out there that.
Right. I know the Brooklyn DA is 100% behind it. And I know the new commissioner and the new mayor of New York City, they're behind it too. It's actually the unions that are giving the pushback. So now we have to deal with that. So we went through that politics, we finally got through. And now we got to deal with the politics of the union. But once we get through that, I'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah. And I always say this, and I always say the best gift that you can give anybody, and John Maxwell says it the best too, is a better you. And when you have a better you, that's going to be not only better for your profession, forget about the profession, think about your family life, think about your why. When you have a better you, when you're in a better headspace, those things are what's really going to propel you to the next level. And that's really eliminating the, I call them the cookie monsters up here from the neck up, because they run around in our head all the time. And that's fear. Fear kind of controls us. So how do we control fear? Because fear is nothing more than something tangible. We can't touch fear. But what we do is we live in the what ifs. We live in the shoulds. We live in all these other, little made up stories that probably aren't that true, but yet we make them true in our head. So that's really, really important. And Terry, I'm sorry that if I went off a little bit there, but I wanted to get back to you as well. And I truly believe that, if there's anything in Massachusetts that we can do, I would love to have you locally be able to do that. With some of our facilitators coming up there, because one of the things that we do in our program, it's very unique that we send at least 3 facilitators, if not sometimes 4, because when you're dealing with them 3 days, you're dealing with a lot of people's traumas, you're dealing with a lot of taking their bags on. And what we're doing is we have done this, we want to help them put their bags down. And not carry them for them, but show them how to put their bags down, because that's a good visual that we like to use. Because so many people get caught up in helping people carry their bags, and then the facilitator's not that good to be able to facilitate because he's helping or she's helping everyone else carry their bags. So right. We have instituted here in Resilient Minds that every one of our facilitators that facilitates a program will then see one of our trained professionals that we have partnered with at Heritage down in Houston by Zoom, just to make sure that our people are fresh and safe too, because our facilitators are, they have their bags, but we want to make sure they offload those bags. So 72 hours after they teach a course or after they facilitate a course, we pay for it at Resilient Minds that they go through a 45-minute debriefing. And we truly believe that's important so they can offload some of the stuff that they've brought on to them.
Yeah, and to that, Michael, like even as a resiliency coach, helping individuals heal from post-traumatic stress, the process that I go through with that, there's little, if any, sharing. So I totally respect what you're doing as far as the debriefing, but and also knowing the culture and the language, that's one of the reasons as far as doing the resiliency coaching, I'm having a lot of positive numbers come down because I'm able to identify with them. I'm able to speak their language. And I'm able, you know, a civilian's not going to know that. They're not
Yeah.
going to know how to deal with that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to take a look at your website, and I will reach out to you, and then I can talk to you about, you know, meeting Daniel Jarvis, and if that's something you're interested in as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, you know, and again, we do have, and I saw Dave's message in the chat. I wanted to talk about changing a culture, and we have been brought back over 6 times already to the village of Addison, which is right outside of Chicago. And you want to talk about some changes that are going on in the village over there. They're putting their whole, every one of their employees through it, because they really truly believe that when you change that language, you're going to get a better, not only a better you, but you're going to get a better, you know, you're going to get a better person at work. You're going to get a better human. And that truly is life-changing for that person. And they have put their money where their mouth is, and they're using all the resources. They have wellness credits, they have, you know, seizure funds, they have, you know, other departments are using whatever they can to be able to pay for it as well. And that's really really putting the value in their employees. And that's one thing, you know, you can't take away, because take away the cost of it, take away everything with that when you go through something that is very stressful. And we all have been through that. I know for me, there was a couple times on the job where more than a couple, went through a bunch of things, and they kind of live with you for a while until you deal with them. And they don't truly go away until you really, really go down deep. It's kind of like a garbage disposal. You keep on putting things in the garbage disposal. One day, if you keep on putting big enough things in there, it's all going to come shooting out. And we really have to be able to clean that garbage disposal out and really get to the right headspace. And that's what we're trying to do.
So Michael, to that, have you also moved into going into the academies for the new recruits and teaching this, the positive psychology, and giving some tools in that respect?
We do anything that people want to do. We have piloted this program from anywhere from a 17-year-old to a 65-year-old. And we have found that it's the same result. The 17-year-old is happy to get it at 17, because now we're finding out they're utilizing it in colleges. They're utilizing it. So now they have the tools at 17 years old. You know, the 65-year-old that came through the program, he's like, I wish I had this 40 years ago. And he's been a police officer for 45 years. You know, that's just the way it is. But you know, it's just being able to connect the head with the heart. When you can connect the head with the heart, and you can make that connection, and you can make that connection with others, there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that you can't accomplish. But again, and Terry, to go back to what we say, we can beat this up. It's changing the culture of people's thinking. Sometimes we just get caught up on that hamster wheel, and we think about what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen if I lose my gun, what's going to happen if I can't do the job no more. There's, you know, that's all part and parcel, but what's going to happen if you're not here no more with us?
Right.
And that's what we want to deal with. We want a better human. We want a better person. We want a better you. And when we get that, that's when we can really try to save that person's, the docs and everybody that we have brought on that really get behind that, because that's really where it's at. And Dr. Schlosser talks about that a lot. I don't know if you know Dr. Schlosser, but he is on our team.
Yeah.
He talks about, that, he has changed the whole way that police do, that police talk in that realm, because he's a psychologist, and he does a lot of fitness for duty. He does all that stuff. And when you invest that much in an officer, in that person, you want that investment to have a return, but that return comes in as a better person. And that's where I think the stigma is starting to change. It's not fully there yet, but when you get there, when you get to that, I think that comes with understanding what your IA rules are in your different departments and stuff like that.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm talking to Dan right now. He might jump on. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
I'll let you guys know.
I'll
I'm
ask the-
texting him now.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if he comes on. So Michael, you and Terry, you hit upon the, taking this to the universities. That has been something that I have thought about for a long time. Before quarantine, I had veterans come and share their stories to Masters of Social Work students, and I was all ready to take some veterans over to MFT students. And I think too, how powerful it would be to have, your training, it sounds like could be, of course, for the MFT students, for the social work students themselves, but also another way for them to really understand the importance of getting behind our protectors. That so much of the politics and all the news and stuff like that on all sides, it's about trauma.
Yes.
And about, we need to support trauma, not demonizing another side. And so I would love to even drop that seed. And if there's anything I can do to help, because that's already on my heart and mind to go forward again. But again, I love what you're doing, and I would love to see, the civilian arena have more understanding in all this, and how this is really the target, what you're talking about now, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there's not one person, Sarah, that this couldn't benefit. And I truly mean that. I say it from the 17-year-old to the 65 or 70-year-old. It's just being able to get in that positive mindset. Is it the easiest thing to do? No. I'm going to say it's the easiest thing to say, but it's the hardest thing to do. And how do we do that? And that's some of the tools that we give you in the program. Some of the things that we do in the program is that interpersonal connection. And then obviously it takes a lot of work on the person's side as well. And we've seen the results, and the results are astonishing. And I'm really excited about partnering with a university to do a white paper on this, to put people through the program to actually see what they get on the other side too. Because again, we can only quantify it by emails. We can't quantify it by anything else. How many lives did we save? We don't know, because unless somebody comes forth and says that, we really don't know what we've done on that. But we know we've put our heart and soul into giving them the tools to do that.
So I will say that I will come out and say it, because I'm more than an email. And some of you know the story, some of you don't. Without Michael, I'd be a statistic, and I wouldn't be sitting here talking about this with you all and him today. So it works. Michael works. Not only is he a good friend and great at what he does, he's got the heart to go along with it. So the training works, the program works, and it's truly been an honor to work for him and with him to be able to get this out to everybody else. So from me to you, buddy, thank you for everything. And it's just so cool to have both of us sitting here on the same page, and me be able to say that to you, in front of a group of people. So thank you for everything that you're doing. The program is amazing.
That means the world, Dave.
If David Perez says that, that must mean a lot. I'll tell you one thing. They don't make them like David. They just don't.
No, they don't. I think Dave's put me in contact with more people, and I give him, I tell him all the time, he adds value not only to our team, but our family, but, he adds value to everyone. And that's what it's all about. And that's what we talk about, being part of the 400 level. We can, you know, when we're spiraling down, we need to stop ourselves. That's the 100 level. From jumping from the negative over to the positive, the 200 level. And then being able to spiral back up the 300 level, and the 400 level is taking somebody else with you. And when you do that, that's what David does. And he truly has, you know, made a heart for this. And I can speak all over the country, and I can talk about all this stuff, but without, you know, great people behind us, and David has been such a great friend, a great cheerleader, and a great facilitator. And I look forward to everything we have in the future. And I just look forward to changing lives, and that's what it's all about.
Well, if you get a chance and you have access to New York 1 or Q1043 and maybe a handful of other press, you'll be able to see. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Me and David will be giving the 9/11 Museum a veteran. He's a United States Marine Corps veteran, combat veteran. He's an active duty police officer in Detroit, and he makes flags, and he made a custom made flag, and me and David have the honor of donating it to the 9/11 Museum Thursday noon, this coming Thursday. So I can't wait. He was supposed to be there for the police commissioner one, but he was riding a bike across the country.
Yeah, just a little bike ride, you know,
Just a little bike ride.
And I did that for 20 years, and this is the first year I missed it. And I did make it to the memorial. I did make it over there, but it's just the way the schedule fell, and with all my travel and everything like that over the past couple of weeks.
Well, they're gonna record us speaking, so David's voice is gonna be in the booth, so it'll be part of the live exhibit, eternal, for the museum, like until New York City falls. So, and that's not happening anytime soon, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's Dave, man. He's an amazing man. Thank you so much for everything that you do, Dave. Thank you.
You're here to that. You're here to that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it wasn't for actually on my screen, the two beautiful people sitting next to each other, both Sarah and Michael, you know, life would be different for me. So I'm a product of all the awesomeness that you guys exude. So thank you for that. And Michael saved my ass, and Sarah gave me the confidence to talk about it. So it's pretty cool to have you all in the same place. And then oddly taking over for Ryan last minute to be able to finish this out. But he's all right. Brian, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, just a quick comment. You know, I've appreciated this chat, but you know, even more so, I'm just amazed at, like, you know, you just think about timelines, right? Like back in the 80s, they called post-traumatic stress fog of war, you know, things like that, shell shock, right? Having someone who's lived with post-traumatic stress for 20 years, you know, I've seen the way it's gone from completely misunderstood or not understood at all to, you know, there's so many groups and there's so many people out there that are out there to, you know, their whole mission in life is to, you know, help get people right. People that have, you know, put themselves on the line, that have, you know, done things to protect our freedoms and that sort of thing. Or just people that experience traumas in general, because it's not necessarily combat. It's not necessarily, you know, something you experience in, you know, the military, police force. It can be anybody, but just the fact that there's been so much growth in this area, and so many people, you know, raising their hand to support people like me and Johnny and Dave and everyone else, Michael as well. You know, it's heartwarming. It's, you know, I speak for myself, but I'm sure, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of other veterans and you know, former law enforcement professionals that would say the same thing. But you know, you guys are doing the right thing, and you're definitely saving lives. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Brian. I just want to add something that you said there, and that's you know, that's the growth mindset. And we talk about growth versus fixed mindset all the time. And when you live in that fixed mindset, you know, something you just kind of persevere to try to get through it. But when you live in that growth mindset, you're constantly growing in not only your thoughts, but your vision and where you want to take yourself. So that's huge. That's huge.
Brian, I just wanted to touch on something you said, and Mike, I'm not sure if you talked about it before. I got on at 2:04 instead of 2:00, but did you talk about the transition from the late 70s, from the Army to the Air Force, the FBI, and
I did not. I did not go into the nomenclature of it, how it has evolved, but more importantly, if you want me to kind of go just briefly hit that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think that would be great, especially piggybacking off of what Brian just said from changing the terminology from like fog of war to PTSI and what are they, a shell shock, I think they called it after Vietnam.
Yeah, and now I believe it's PTS rather than the D. They kind of dropped that D, the disorder portion of it. But obviously they started doing this in the military. They started teaching resilience. And I believe they started with the upper line supervisors. And it was kind of like, where they would take it. Then it went to the Air Force, then it went, through the military, and then it went to the FBI, National Academy adopted it. Then New Jersey brought it, so there's different variations of the program. What we wanted to kind of hit on is the brain science of it. And not only marry up the brain science of it, but also marry up the portion where we can back it up with research-based things. Because we can sit here and say, oh yeah, go out and be positive. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we go out and give the tools and the research behind it to make it that way. And that's where we have really tried to take Resilient Minds to a whole nother level with the different variations over the years. But I want to throw a statistic out there, and it's not a statistic that I put out there. It was a study that was done, and that was 63%. And utilizing that 63% is if you want to adapt a healthier, more significant, whether it's corporation, whether it's a police department, whether it's the military, you base that off of positive psychology and the resilient mindset. So when you have that resiliency, when you put all these tools together, you're going to get a 63% return on that. And I utilize this and I say this, that's just by changing one word. And that one word is but. Just think of when you do a performance evaluation, or when you've been through a performance evaluation. You go through that performance evaluation, and they've always taught the sergeant, the lieutenant, or whoever it may be, give 2 positive things, give a negative thing, and then give 2 positive things. Okay. So what do you remember out of all 6 of those things that you went through?
You would
What you need to improve on.
I can tell you this. I remember my last performance evaluation, and I don't remember what the good things were. I only remember the bad things were, and they were followed by the but.
Yeah.
You did 2 things good, but you can improve on this. You change that but to now, you change the whole complexity of things. You change the whole conversation by changing that one word.
Yep.
And then you will adopt a positive person, because now you're taking responsibility just with them. Because if you have to wait 6 months for a performance evaluation, that leader is not doing their job.
Right.
That should be addressed right then and there. And we deal with that as well. We talk about that. Obviously we can't change the culture of how they do their performance evaluations, but if you utilize this one word, you change the whole conversation there by that. So it's just a little nugget that we utilize, and we really truly believe in changing that culture as well.
Can you give an example of that? I'm sorry, like would it be like the negative, but now, and then the positive? Is that what you're saying? Or
now, so for example, I'm going to tell you, you write a great report. You stop a lot of cars and write a lot of tickets. But you need to improve on the, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So changing that but to say now, okay, so you write a great report. You stop a lot of cars, you write tickets to the people who need to be written tickets to. Now let's talk about, the situation where we can, we had the situation with the hostage, and we went into the situation, we talked about something that maybe we shouldn't have said, and I take responsibility. If the leader takes responsibility with the subordinate, it changes the whole complexity on how the subordinate receives the information.
That makes sense.
And that's
So the other thing about the culture of law enforcement is, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's, I want to talk to you at the end of the shift. This is leading into our days off though, okay? So, see, you have a good couple of days off, right? The typical norm in that culture, it's always like the undermining of the officer and kind of like leaving, that's been my experience, leaving them hanging. And then dealing with that, thinking of having it ponder in your mind all on your days off and not knowing what you're going back to when you go back for your next shift.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Terry. I could not agree with you more. And how you can change that. I can say that on my board of directors, I have some leaders that I worked for that are on my board of directors. However, they don't get a vote.
Right.
They don't get a vote in my life. And when somebody doesn't have that interpersonal connection with somebody, I can't tell you how many times, a supervisor would call me in and I'd be on the other side of town, make a trip to headquarters. I need to talk to you. Instead of just saying, hey, listen, can you give me a call real quick? I need to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. So
Right.
that puts the officer, it puts the person at ease. So, whatever it could be, you can be any person in the world. If the chief's calling you or the sergeant, lieutenant, whoever it is, your direct supervisor, whoever that is, always just say, hey, listen, I need to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. That way, you know what, there's at least the person knows, and especially if you're going off on a long weekend, you can change the whole complexity of somebody's outlook on not only you, but the situation, or how it can be handled just by having that communication. And we do a whole block in Resilient Minds just on communication.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And I just
Yeah.
wanted to add one thing to what Michael said about the board of directors. And so there's some clarification. He's not talking about the business board of directors, he's talking about his personal, in his head board of
Yeah.
directors.
All right.
And the board of directors for Michael Pellegrino's life. So it's important to have the good ones and the bad ones sitting at the table. The bad ones just don't get a vote.
Yeah. And that's
My board of directors is my wife.
Thank you for clarifying that, Dave, because I my mind is going a million miles an hour, and I always think that I'm talking to somebody that that has taken the course before. But yeah, that's an important part of our course. Is we tell people to identify people in their lives, and we say they sit on their board, not their personal board. And I have a lot of people on my board that just don't get a vote. And a lot of them were past supervisors.
Hey, can you please tell my wife that? She conned me into a new puppy. I'll tell you later, David. Yeah, I have another dog. Yeah. Real quick, I just messaged the board of directors 22-0, all of them. They all said they'd be happy to have a conversation with you. When Sarah's done recording, can you give me your phone number and I'll send it to him?
I sure can, Johnny.
Okay.
Not a problem at all.
Michael, would it be okay if Dave shares your information with me as well? I'm texting with Jarvis right now, and I would be happy to share your information with him as well.
Oh no, this is Dan, Terry. I got Dan, Joe, and Nick all on the same thread.
Okay.
Yeah, if you, yeah, I mean, I talk to him like 7 times a day anyway. So I just figured I'm on here. I might as well just say, hey, I ran into something you guys might want to look at. And so I sent them your website, and Dan said you'd be happy to talk. And Joe and Nick both said yes too. So
Absolutely. I think the
Okay.
more that you can collaborate and get the message out, I always say that, listen, that's the best way we can do it is communicate and get that message.
15 minutes into listening to you speak, I immediately thought 22, you and 22-0 could like, it would be like Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk. And ironically enough, Sarah, I would have no idea who 22-0 was if it wasn't for Sarah, but not because of Sarah, but because of Michael Gare, who is a filmmaker. The way things work, and I hate, and I try to stay away from religion, but I will say this: God puts angels in our lives every single day. You just have to be willing to look for them and being willing to accept them, because you never know how it's gonna. You think life is gonna turn out one way, and it never does.
Mhm.
God's got a different plan. You just have to trust him and go with it. And when certain people are put in your path, you have to follow it. And as soon as I heard you talk, I got goosebumps, dude. I was like, man, I gotta call Dan, Joe, and Nick and be like, hey, you could really team up and take over the world. So when the recording's done, give me your number and I'll text it over to him.
You have it. I just texted it to you.
Did you? All right, never mind then. I'm gonna flip it to him now.
Sounds good. I appreciate the kind words, Johnny. That means a lot. I really do.
Well, wait until you meet Dan. You guys are gonna. I think I got a feeling it's a good fit. I really do. David, am I wrong? I think it's an awesome fit.
No, I think it's fantastic. It's
Yeah. Okay.
something that's been on my mind as well.
Excellent. Excellent. I look forward to that. I really do. Really do. Anybody
All
else
right,
have
any other last minute questions? Anybody else? In the interest of time, we've been at this for an hour and 12 minutes. Well, me an hour and 8. Michael, did you want to just close out with anything?
I just want to say what an honor it is to be on this call with each and every one of you. And if you took any nuggets away from this, I think that's the best. And share them nuggets, because if you never know whose life you're going to touch, at what time you're going to touch it, because it's always the right time. And never wait for something to happen. Make something happen. And that's really, really the most important part of this whole thing.
I could not agree more. And so cool to have you on this platform, in this forum. Both you and Sarah connected like this is it's really a special piece for me, in a different way that I think everybody else will connect. But thank you both for providing the opportunity for everybody to have a place to chat and a place to feel comfortable, a place to learn from each other, and then a place to share their own issues, so nobody has to go through this process alone. And Michael, thank you for giving us and creating a toolbox for everybody to have to be able to go along with those skills. So for that, I think we're going to close it out. Sarah, did you want to just sign it off?